Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have everybody join us today. It is a snowy day in Minnesota. Great day to be watching a webinar. We're going to give people a few minutes to log in, and then we'll get started. So thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Just going to give everybody a couple minutes to get into the room. All right. I know we had a number of people registered for today's webinar, and we're glad that you're taking time out of your day to be with us. We know also that in a few of our communities, we have small groups gathered to also watch it together. So welcome to all of you. My name is Steve Jewell with Community Giving, and we're very pleased to have you with us today to be part of year-end giving strategies. This is a topic we have covered in the past, but we wanted to make sure that we are staying current on as giving strategies sometimes change over time, and wanted to make sure that we were staying on top of that, as well as just staying in touch with all of you. So welcome. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. Today's webinar will be recorded, and we do know, as always, we get a number of people who register and look for the recording. So if you also have to step off, please know that we will have this webinar recorded and will be emailed out to those who have registered. If you do have questions as we go through, please put them in the Q&A tab. Sarah Carlson, Executive Director of the Wilmer Area Community Foundation, will be facilitating a Q&A after each of our speakers get done making presentations about various aspects of giving. And we're really fortunate at Community Giving to have an incredible team of executive directors who lead local community foundations in their respective communities. We have AJ in Alexandria, Carl up in Brainerd, Greta here central Minnesota out of St. Cloud, and Kai down in Carver County, and as I mentioned, Sarah with the Wilmer Area Community Foundation. And they are really experts in their field. They facilitate a lot of gifts on an annual basis. And today they're going to really be providing an overview and sharing with you some tips, as well as just how year-end giving takes place at their respective foundations and here at Community Giving. So once again, welcome, and really appreciate you being here. I'm going to turn it over to Carl Samp, the leader of the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation. Carl.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome everyone. Glad to have you with us. Looks like we got to start on a white Christmas in most of our communities, so hope everybody had a safe day of travel getting to where you needed to be. So I'm just going to give an overview of what a community foundation is and does, and then the rest of the team will be picking up more specifics after I go. So a community foundation is usually a geographic specific 501c3 charity. And for us, Community Giving holds our 501c letter. And then all the partner foundations are divisions of Community Giving. So we're governed by a board of directors at both Community Giving level, and then each of the partner foundations also has a board. So we hold a variety of charitable funds. There'll be a slide on that coming up for individuals, couples, businesses, nonprofits, or other or around certain causes. We make grants to nonprofits, both from our fund holders and through our own unrestricted funds. And in the case of Brainerd, it's almost about an 8-to-1 ratio made by our donors versus what our board makes decisions on through our grant making. We help connect donors to causes and organizations that share their personal priorities and interests. So we listen to them as we meet with donors. We want to find out about what their hopes for the future are, maybe what keeps them up at night, and what they would like to, and how they would like to do something about that. And then we help generous people change lives and communities through philanthropy. So there's 6 different types of funds that we hold. We have agency funds that are for our nonprofit friends in our communities. We do fund management for them, invest it, try and grow the funds. Up in Brainerd, we also assist with helping with some fund management. We might handle some more complex gifts that people want to make, like appreciated assets or charitable gift annuities, et cetera. Some of the funds are permanent endowments, but most often they're reserve funds that the nonprofit can access should they need them. We also have designated funds that are usually made by individuals or couples, and often they're endowed funds, meaning we're paying out a percentage, 5% or less, to the charities that they've chosen when they set up the fund. Oftentimes that's what type of fund is set up for a legacy gift or bequest. We host donor advised funds where the donors make the grant recommendations for specific organizations, and then those are approved by our board of directors. They need to be 501c3 charities or school districts or units of government to be eligible organizations. We host a variety of field of interest funds that might have to do with parks or trails, children's services, maybe environment, arts. We have several women's funds at our partner foundation. We even have a men's fund down in St. Cloud area. So a variety of those types of fields that people care about. Up here in Brainerd, we've got one for dogs too. So we host scholarship programs. So that can include either the 2 or 4 year college programs. And then up here in Brainerd, for instance, we also host the Brainerd Public School Foundation. So they kind of handle all the Brainerd Public School scholarships. And then finally, we have unrestricted funds where donors have made gifts that they allow our board to make the decision on the best use of that. So that can support our grant making awards. And sometimes if we're smaller foundations getting started, they can also be used for operational dollars as well. So those are our types of funds that we have. And there's a couple of different options. I mentioned that either the endowed or annual payout fund, and the annual payouts are 5% or less, then they're treated as endowed funds as far as having that lower fund management fee. And those types of funds are made to last ideally into perpetuity. So that fund will just keep paying out well into the future and hopefully growing over time. Then there's the flexible funds where the donor can recommend grants over 5%, and they can pay all of it out if they want at any time. So any amount or all at any time. It does have a slightly higher fund management fee because we're usually writing a few more checks and the fund isn't held as long. So those are a couple different options. We also have an annual payout fund. That's usually where money's coming in and out for like a trail fund where they're raising local government or local match for applying to governmental grants. But yeah, usually most of our donors don't use that option. So why use a local community foundation? Well, first, I love the idea of keeping our philanthropic dollars working within our local economies, benefiting our nonprofits, our neighbors, and then revolving through our businesses. As the nonprofits spend those dollars, they end up back in our businesses again and financial institutions, et cetera. So I like to say, it can be part of a community's economic development strategy to capture and keep that local wealth working for us in our communities. We provide a personalized concierge service to clients and our donors, unlike some of the large commercial charities do. And much like you do as professional advisors versus some of the impersonal services like Rocket Lawyer or TurboTax, or other types of services, E-Trade, Ameritrade, those types of things. So you get that individualized service. And like we say, you'll never have the executives of Fidelity sitting down with your clients to help them with their charitable goals. When a professional advisor asks their clients about what good they want their wealth to do or what are their charitable goals, whether it's for their betterment of their own future, their heirs, or the causes they care about, especially on that charitable side, those professional advisors get 60% more word of mouth referrals, and that's according to the latest US Trust survey. And also 74% of high net worth clients say that they have a better relationship with their professional advisor when they talk to them about their charitable goals. And then finally, you know, the alternative could be higher taxes if you're not working with your clients on charitable options. So either higher income, capital gains, or estate taxes. And that is it for me. Next up will be AJ Kohler from our Alexandria Area Community Foundation. So it's been a pleasure working with you all. This will probably be my last professional advisor webinar from at least from the Brainerd chair. So I'll be calling it quits at the end of the year. So AJ, take it away.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Carl. As Carl mentioned, I'm AJ Kohler. I am the Executive Director of the Alexandria Area Community Foundation, like he said. Now that he went through all of the funds, thank you. I just want to talk about what assets and what you can give or what your clients can give. So, and also what we can accept. First of all, I really just want to say we really appreciate our relationship with professional advisors, because you are the ones working with your clients and looking at what they have to help determine what is the best option of giving for them. So we really appreciate our relationship. To start, our probably most popular, I guess, form of giving is cash. Gifts we do receive a tax deduction acknowledgement. I just wanted to mention that. And when donors do make a gift to their donor advised fund or their other fund, then they receive a tax deduction notification or letter when that gift happens. In addition to cash, probably previously our second most popular form of giving is stocks. I want to mention we also accept real estate gifts, and we have a real estate foundation that can help with the criteria to make sure this real estate gift is suitable for the donor, and also make sure that the donor receives the right benefit from giving real estate. And just to mention that real estate gifts can be given on a transfer of death, or it can be given outright. So there are many ways this type of gift can be made. There are also many ways people can give via planned giving. The most direct way is through a will. They can put a request in there stating what they want to give, if it's a specific item or a specific dollar amount. There's a lot of flexibility on this option for planned giving. We also have trusts and annuities, which are charitable gift annuities. And with the charitable gift annuity, that gift is given in time, while a trust, as you probably know, that gifts can be given to that same trust over time. That's the difference between those. And also I want to mention IRAs. So a designated fund, if it's created, specifies in the agreement what charities the fund holders want their gift to be designated to. And if the donors ever want to make this change, they can do that once a year or in the following year after they set it up. So designated funds can accept IRAs, while donor advised funds cannot. We just want to be able to, I wanted to mention that because we want people to be able to use their IRAs and help them in any way we can, but the best way to do that is through designated fund. And then quickly, I just want to mention that generosity comes in many forms, and it's our pleasure to work with you and your clients to help them find the best ways and to get the most out of their giving. So when you give to one of the partner foundations or through community giving, great things can happen in our communities where our fund holders live and just the areas that they care about. So that was just kind of quickly through the different assets that people can give. So once again, I just appreciate, we all appreciate our relationship with you and helping what is best for the donor and what their goals are in the community. Next, I want to introduce Greta. She's the Executive Director for CMCF. So thank you so much, Greta.
Thanks, AJ. As AJ said, I am Greta Stark-Crocker, the Executive Director with the Central Minnesota Community Foundation, and I get the pleasure of working with these other Executive Directors that are on the line here today. We learn from each other, and that's great. I'd like to share with you how we at the Foundation work with professional advisors in our communities. Carl spoke about the fund types, and I'd like to share a little bit about how this all works with our professional advisors, the donors, and the Foundation. And just another call out that at the foundation, we truly believe in concierge level service. So at the root of all of our work with professional advisors and donors is really that high level concierge level service. Most of our referrals come in from accountants, attorneys, and financial planners, and maybe meeting with a client who's charitably inclined or in a situation to reduce their tax implications due to a sale of business, retirement, or an inheritance, or another situation. Recently, we at CMCF worked with a local attorney who picked up the phone, gave us a call, said, "Hey, I've got a client in the process of selling a business." Our team met with the attorney, the clients, and their daughter was in the meeting. And during these meetings, we listen first and respond with a solution based on the donor's philanthropic goals. So we really sat down with the client and the professional advisor and just tried to understand what their philanthropic goals were, what they wanted to give to, what their passions were, and how we at the foundation could help make that happen in the community. In this case, it was the mom and dad and their daughter, and they had an opportunity to give back to the community and needed some advice and ideas to donate to. Their main goal was to reduce taxes and give back to their community. Our team went back and did some research and presented some potential ideas on what they could do with the donor advised fund and potential giving opportunities that met their areas of interest. We then went back and we met with the attorney and their clients again, gathered the information, basic information such as contact information, the name of the fund. We worked with the donors to discuss the name of the fund. Would they like their fund to be called something with their name in it? Do they want to have nonprofits know where the grants are coming from when they do their charitable giving? And we worked through that process of the basic paperwork to set up the fund agreement. We discussed things such as a succession plan for the fund. In this case, they had a daughter who would be advising on the fund. Other options that we considered and discussed were to predetermine designated charities to pay out over a period of time, or leaving their legacy by directing the balance or a percentage of the fund to our community impact fund, which we have in each one of our affiliate partners, that goes to meet emerging needs in our community, which change over time. Once we finished our conversations, we then drafted a fund agreement for the donors to review and sign, and got the additional signatures and sent a fully signed copy and welcome packet to the donors on how to access their fund for online giving. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Kai Tran, Executive Director for the Carver County Community Foundation, to talk about how we support our clients once a fund is established. Kai?
Thanks, Greta. My name is Kai Tran. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Foundation for Carver County. And my segment here is all around supporting your clients after a fund has been established. We'll kind of walk through a few screenshots of the donor portal that we have for your clients. We'll talk through how to make contributions as well as grants, and then most importantly, how we can continue to connect your clients to the community. So the first one is after the fund is established with the local community foundation through community giving, your client will receive a link to the donor portal with the access credentials, and within it, we'll have the ability to look at statements, update the account profile, download any sort of transactions, activities, statements, and whatnot. And then the next section really is about how to make contributions, ongoing contributions to their fund. There is a link to our main donation link off the community giving website. And through here, they can provide donations online through the donate link, as well as send physical checks to our headquarters in the St. Cloud office. Just be sure to make it out payable to community giving, and within the memo line, put the fund name so that we can make sure it goes into the right account. And then, as AJ indicated earlier, we can also take gifts of real estate and stock transactions. The next section is making grants. Within the donor portal, the client can then recommend grants to be made out of their fund. Grants can be made out to 501c3 charity nonprofits, government entities like city and county projects, as well as schools, churches, although there are some restrictions, but most faith communities do apply as well. There is a minimum of $250 in terms of the actual grant that we would like to recommend. And then lastly, how do we continue to connect your client to the community? There's a reason that they selected their community foundation to begin with versus a larger transactional based type of donor advised fund company. Our claim to fame from a community foundation perspective really is about connecting and understanding the needs of each local community. Most of our executive directors have been in their respective communities for a long time, a number of years. And so they've gotten engaged with nonprofit organizations, businesses, government departments, schools, and the local faith communities. So they're aware of the gaps and the needs. And so they can be a great resource for your client to continue to connect and find out volunteering opportunities that they can continue to engage in. The resources from a monetary perspective is certainly important, but the ability to really belong in their community is something that we can help with. As there's more than 7,000 nonprofits within all of Minnesota, and if I look at Carver County specifically, there are more than 700 nonprofits within Carver County. So there's a lot to choose from, and the executive director of the local community foundation has a tie into a lot of these nonprofits that are making the most impact within their community. So we're more than happy and to be a good resource for your client. So the next section is the Q&A, and I'd like to introduce my counterpart, Sarah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here with us, and thanks to my colleagues for handling some of this really important conversation. I do have some questions that have been privately chatted to me, but I want to remind you that you can certainly put a Q&A into the Q&A tab, and we will have plenty of time to chat with that. So I'll give you a minute to load any of those questions in. But as Kai was talking, we certainly want to point out that that fund web, which is what Kai was just showing you, is 24/7, 365. It is available to fund holders to see activity in their account, to see if that gift has been dropped into their account yet, has a grant that they recommended been processed. So it is a really nice tool beyond the capability of the staff who are available during normal business hours and often a little past to be able to assist clients. So it's a really lovely tool. But it is not the only way. As Kai said, you can contact any of our executive directors at any time and ask for some due diligence, ask for feedback, ask for our insights about what's happening in the community to assist your client who would ultimately become our donor or is our donor inside a fund. And you should know that that is work that the executive directors will do with your clients when they become our fund holder donors. We come alongside them to assist them in doing the good they want to have happen in the communities and in the causes that they are really well aligned with for values alignment. That is what we do. And so I tell our donors all the time and our fund holders, there is no foolish question. Only the question that you don't ask is the foolish one. So please feel free to ask any of our executive directors, whatever you might need. And remember too, that while we have specific geographies in mind that we each serve, that doesn't mean that we cannot work with donors from wherever they might be. As long as the donor has a tie to one of you as the trusted professional advisor in their life, we can work with them. I can think of several donors who have been referred to our foundation here in the Willmar area by their trusted professional advisor, but that person has never lived in Candy, Ojai County, much less in Willmar. They call the Minneapolis-St. Paul area home. They live out of state. And as long as we have that portal, our executive directors are easily accessible, and we can handle fund creation and signatures via DocuSign and secure systems like that, we can assist your donor wherever they might be. So don't feel like you don't have an option of using a local community foundation. You absolutely can do that, even if your donor does not call one of our communities home. We do that all the time. So I'm going to start with the first question here. I'm going to give it back to my colleague, Carl Samp. And Carl, sometimes we hear about donors who are our professional advisor clients, and they have legacy plans. They might have something in their estate plan. They might have a beneficiary designation done on an IRA or some other retirement vehicle, or even life insurance. Why is it important for our professional advisors to let their community foundation staff know about their clients' intentions in a legacy gift?
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks to all my colleagues. Did a great job. Well, I think a couple of things come to mind. One is we'd love to recognize them as members of our Legacy Society, if they're okay with that, and hold them up as an example to other folks in our community. So that's one thing. But they also, we may find out what causes they care about, and we may actually be able to present additional options to them in that particular area that they have a passion for. So it's just another way for them to broaden and have greater impact in that cause. And also, if we know, what charity that they're intending to support, and sometimes nonprofits cease to exist. And in that case, we can either contact them before they're passing and find out an alternative beneficiary that they would like to name, or a cause they want to support. So it gives us that option to identify where else their gift might go.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. I can certainly think of a time in my experience where we didn't learn about a donor's planned gift before they passed, and it led to some complications in us actually being able to implement and anticipate what that donor wanted us to do, because we couldn't work with them during their lifetime to do so. So it is important. It's not so much about us being public. In fact, those gifts can be anonymous. During that donor's lifetime, it can be held inside our system until that donor's passing. And as long as, in many cases, our planned gifts, our legacy gifts, are not irrevocable, they are totally revocable gifts. So there's really no downside in engaging the professional staff of your community foundation when you are working with a client who has intention to leave a legacy gift. So we really would encourage you all to help us do that. And if you need us to tag us in on trying to maybe educate your client or assist your client in coming around to that idea, please let us know. We're happy to help. So my next question will go to my colleague, AJ. And AJ, you talked a little bit about IRA assets and what we can and cannot do with IRA assets. But a question that came in was, can IRA assets be used to support a community foundation's operations or its grant making directly versus putting it into a fund?
Thanks, Sarah. That's a good question. I know these things can kind of get tricky when it comes to IRAs, but the answer is yes, they can use their RMD, or required minimum distribution, as a qualified charitable contribution to support operations or the community impact fund that the IRA donor does not control. Yes, good question. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. We appreciate those kinds of gifts, just like cash or stock or whatever else a donor might want to do. Again, This is a great moment to engage your executive director in asking those questions. In fact, we often will have those insights before I can tell a time when one of our donors had put in the request with their IRA custodial account holder to send dollars down to a donor advised fund, and they let us know, and we were able to intervene there and redirect those assets into qualified charitable distributions to do good work, because that was not an allowable distribution of their IRA. So again, it's a great moment to engage our team to assist. Greta, I have a question for you that has come in, and that's around timeliness of gifts. It is the giving season, as we affectionately call it. And there are certainly some deadlines coming up for end of the calendar year giving and getting a fund set up and how long it takes to kind of do that. So would you share with a little bit with our audience about those timelines, especially at calendar year end, and then also talk about when we're past the giving season, roughly how long does it take our team to get a fund up and running once a donor has stepped forward?
Sure, thanks, Erin. Great questions. I'm happy to try to answer those for you. I'd say to set up a fund at the foundation, really get in touch with your executive director before December 25th, because it does take us some time to turn those around. And at year end, there's a lot of people that are coming in wanting to do good in their community. So I'd say December 25th, if you want to set up a fund, get a hold of your local executive director and have that conversation. If you're thinking about funding your fund with a stock gift, I highly recommend, again, you get in touch with your local community foundation executive director by December 22nd. That gives us time to do our very best to make sure the stock gets transferred into our account in a timely manner, because we don't have control over the timing of the market. We just need a little time to get that stock into the right place at the right time. Once it's in the community foundation's account, then we're good. As far as if you have a fund at the foundation already and you're looking at your year-end giving, the last day to submit a grant request would be December 11th. And if you're looking at mailing a charitable gift to our office, it must be postmarked by December 31st to ensure a 2022 tax deduction. Typically after the end of the calendar year, it takes about a week to turn a fund around, but with the year-end giving, when it's so busy, it could take a couple of weeks before you get a tax receipt, just to give us time to process all the grants and do all the tax receipting for the gifts that have come in the door.
Thank you, Greta. I appreciate that. We have a question that has come into the Q&A tab about gifts of grain. And so yes, is the answer. We can actually take gifts of grain at the community foundation. They can go into a fund, they can be used to establish a fund, or they can be a direct gift to support the operations or mission of the community foundation itself. It is cleanest and best if those gifts of grain go to an elevator where the community foundation is already a registered charitable recipient. And if the donor, ag producer, actually notifies the elevator at the time that the gift arrives, literally arrives on the 4 wheels, that a portion or all of the load that they are dropping off is going to be going into a charitable gift, and to whom. What we have found out down here in Wilmer, where we have accepted gifts of grain, is that there is a process that each of the community foundations goes through to get registered. And to make that gift clean, it goes immediately into our name. And in some elevators are very tech savvy. And so there are actual transponders that are attached to each of the farmers' trailers or their truck. And it can roll on there and it recognizes that producer, and they can pick from an iPad a drop down of who can accept those gifts of grain. It's a commonly used tool that has historically been used for egg producers to benefit their houses of worship. But increasingly, that is a tool to be used for charitable good. And last December at this time, or just before this time, we had a chance to help a retiring ag producer who had gifts of grain in a stored bin on their farmstead that they wanted to gift into a donor advised fund. And so we got registered at their preferred elevators, took those gifts, liquidated those gifts at the direction of our community foundation staff. And then the proceeds check was cut from the elevator straight over to the community foundation and went into their fund. And it was seamless. It was not a difficult or complicated process. And we've helped a couple of other ag producers do that kind of work. So that is something that can be done. Again, if you as a professional advisor are aware one of your clients would like to give a gift of grain, this would be a great moment to give the executive director a heads up. Make sure that they've had a chance to register, which is a short thing usually, but to get on the list so that it's easiest for the elevator and the ag producer to match that gift. I have another question that has come into the Q&A tab, and this is going to go to Kai. Kai, how would you differentiate a community foundation from any other nonprofit in the community?
So there are a number of differences between a community foundation and other typical nonprofits. While both are classified as nonprofits and most are 501c3 designated tax-exempt organizations, really the biggest difference is the purpose. What is the purpose of a community foundation versus a nonprofit whose purpose, for example, might be to help homelessness or affordable housing or transportation or food access. A number of those other nonprofits have a mission, a stated vision, a purpose in mind, where they're convening the community to help very, very specific causes within their community. And it could be the local community or it could be the global community. And those are great nonprofits to continue to support and volunteer at. One of the biggest differences that a community foundation has versus those other types of nonprofits, really, our purpose is to help people plan their giving. And those could be individuals, those could be businesses, those could be other nonprofits. We work with other nonprofits to create agency funds, for example. Most smaller nonprofits don't have the expertise in-house to manage their money. If they're saving for larger projects, large-scale projects, most sit in some sort of a CD or a savings account and not being professionally managed or invested. And so as a community foundation, we can work with those nonprofits and help them manage their money so that there is a long-term positive impact where they can use those funds for larger projects down the road. Another difference is, again, related to our purpose. Our purpose out there is to understand the overall community needs and the gaps within each of the local communities that we serve. And as such, we have relationships and we can continue to develop those relationships with nonprofits and other agencies within the community to understand what the future trends are within each community, and then help direct funds and other resources to help close those gaps within each of those communities. So it's great because we are synergistic and mutually beneficial to each other within the community. And we continue to find really creative ways to work with each other within each community.
Thank you, Kai. I appreciate that. There is a follow-up question in the chat for Carl. Carl, what would you recommend in recruiting or selecting a successor that might be assigned to a fund?
Well, I'd say most often in our donor advised funds, the successors tend to be the children. We just set one up that was a family foundation with 3 children making decisions for their parents who had established the fund. And they were ready to not have to go through that work anymore of sending in the 990 and paying the 2% tax on the income. And so they decided to dissolve the family foundation. And one of the 3 happens to live here in the Brainerd Lakes area. And so we assisted them with that. He had 4 children. So when he set up his donor advised fund for his share of the family foundation, he actually only chose 2 of the 4 children because he thought they would be the most diligent in carrying out the wishes that he had for the cause. So it doesn't have to be all your children. We've seen one of our fund actually had 7 children, and they had all 7 children engaged in that decision-making process. And then we've had other cases where they've named their professional advisor as a successor to it. A couple other options for successing a donor advised fund are to create a designated fund upon their passing, where they designate the specific charities to receive the funds, or they can actually let the funds roll into our community impact fund that will support grant making into the future in our community, where the board decides where the best current needs are for that. So.
And Carl, do we work with donors at the time that they set their fund up about succession?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of our key decisions they have to make, is a succession plan on their donor advised fund. So, and once again, it's one of those 3 options that they choose.
Great, thank you. Another question in the chat here is, can gifts of personal property such as artwork, jewelry, silverware, or etc. be given to a community foundation? The answer to that is yes, and. So hypothetically, yes, those kinds of appreciated non-liquid assets can be gifted to a community foundation, so long as we can ascertain the value. We can actually liquidate them because they're not gifts if they can't be liquidated. The same for actual property. We do have a real estate giving division that will handle gifts of real estate. And sometimes we find donors that have been trying to liquidate an asset for a period of time during their lifetime unsuccessfully, and they decide that that would be a great asset to give. And in hypothetical terms, it is a good time to get it as a gift off of that donor's asset list or balance sheet, except that it's not a gift if it's not sellable, if it can't be valued, or if we can't actually liquidate it ourselves to put it to work in the community. So there is a process by which you would tag in the local executive director that you most closely align with and ask them for some insight about the kind of gift that you are talking about, and we can give you some advice. From time to time, we will use an expert in the industry who is a sector partner of ours that will take a more complicated or lesser seen gift and come alongside us and actually transact that gift before it comes back to us. For example, sometimes we'll do that with collections where we don't have a lot of available expertise around the value of that collection, but we do know folks in the industry who can assist us with that. If there are costs for things like appraisals or valuations, those are borne by the donor at the time that that gift would actually transact. But we do all of these things upfront and transparently. So if there is, I can think of a time when we had a gift that of property that was potentially coming in, but it would be an onerous gift because there had been some petroleum on that. So there would have been EPA requirements that would have come forward. And it was determined after doing all the due diligence and the assessment that it would be a really difficult gift for any charity to accept. And so that that donor ended up doing a price reduction. Their accountant actually advised them to do a deep price reduction and disclose it. And that's how they liquidated that asset. And that's a really good point of reference. We want, when donors are calling us to speak with us about a complex gift, sometimes it's not even all that complicated. We always advise them to check with their professional advisors. Have they talked to their accountant yet? Have they done the numbers? We are not experts on their specific balance sheet or the nuances, but like our professional advisor allies are in the community. So we always want to make sure that we send those donors back, that they've done their own due diligence with those trusted advisors. And often those advisors come to the table alongside their client with us while we are working through these scenarios. It's always preferred that we make sure that the donor is protected. And it is part of the reason why we value these relationships with you as professional advisors as quite as much as we do. Carl, do you remember off the top of your head, what is the percentage of gifts that are referred to community foundations that come through their professional advisor?
Well, Steve told me between 80 and 85%. So the vast majority. And I'd say that's probably held fairly true from my experience in the 7 years I've been doing this. So
Agreed. I would say that it's a rare donor who arrives on our door on their own. Most of them have had a conversation with someone that they trust, who has looked at the numbers or looked at the beneficiary status and knows their situation best and says, this is a great moment for the Community Foundation to be our ally and our partner. Let's give them a call. So it is part of the reason why we work closely and intentionally with professional advisors. Greta, can you share just a little bit about the work that CMCF does to engage professional advisors with your Professional Advisor Council?
Sure, we get our Professional Advisors Council together quarterly, either through webinars or in small groups. We bring in a speaker, we talk about what's going on with the different, if there's IRS guideline changes, we bring them together, we ask questions, we network with each other, we learn from each other, and we build those bridges with our professional advisors. And we're always presenting on what we're doing locally at the Community Foundation too, so that our local professional advisors know what's going on at the Community Foundation and they know who they can call when they have a client that needs assistance.
So creating networks with our professional advisors is something that all of us do. And AJ and Kai are the newer members of our team, but I'm going to ask them in a moment to share also what they are working on to try and engage with you as professional advisors. So Kai, I know you just hosted something recently with professional advisors. Why don't you give everybody a little bit of a heads up on what you're working on?
Sure. We actually just did a very informal social gathering, invited a number of professional advisors that we had developed relationships over the years to help really create this core group. And then they invited their network to this social gathering. It happened to be at a local winery right on the lake. And so the scenery was fantastic. The weather was great. And most importantly, the conversations were very meaningful because it really gave the opportunity for a number of advisors out there. And we're talking financial, estate planning attorneys, tax accountants, real estate agents. I mean, just a number of advisors out there who are dealing with clients that have a need and they have resources available to them. And this social gathering was a very informal way for people to ask questions. There was no agenda. There was just a few hours of people getting to know about the foundation and some of the work that other advisors were currently doing with their clients and through partnering with us as the local community foundation.
Thank you. AJ, would you share a little bit about what Alexandria is working on for professional advisors in your area?
Yeah, so first, I really like Kai's social gathering, so I might take that idea for the Alexandria community. I think that's a great idea and it sounded really successful. With being newer to the foundation, I've really been trying to set up one-on-one meetings with the professional advisors. I've had a few just to talk about the Alexandria Area Community Foundation one-on-one, just to get them to know about the foundation. And then we recently had a great event this September where we honored some local people here in Alexandria, and we made sure that they were all invited so that they could just come to the reception, learn more about what the foundation is working on. So still setting up a lot of one-on-one meetings too.
Which is something that all of us do. It's always available to you to call your community foundation's executive director and ask them to stop over and do either a firm visit or to have a cup of coffee with you if you are an individual professional advisor or in a small agency. We're happy to do that work because, as Carl mentioned, you are the most trusted conduit for charitable giving with your clients. And so we understand that we need to help you do your work with your clients as best as you possibly can. Carl, you and us here in Wilmer use very similar outreach for our professional advisor. Would you want to share just a little bit about some of the lunch and learns and the deeper training that you're doing up there?
Sure. Well, prior to COVID, we were usually holding a quarterly lunch and learn session for professional advisors, where we would select a topic, usually our board of directors and development committee, which includes professional advisors, and it was help us identify a topic they thought would be pertinent. We would bring advisors together. We would share a little information about that. Oftentimes, we received prior approval for continuing education credits that were free to the advisors then when they came. And so they got some benefit of getting information and some continuing ed credits right in their local community without having to travel for those. And so that was always a great thing. Also, when I first started, as AJ talked about, it was a lot of one-on-ones with professional advisors, or going into a firm, maybe bringing in pizza for the team at a firm and making a short presentation about how we can work with those advisors. So yeah, that was probably the most critical part of my job, was building those relationships the first couple years here.
Thank you. And in the Wilmer area, we also do a blend of social activities because we believe that community foundations can be a catalyst and a convener in a community for a number of sectors, certainly around professional advisors, to do those kinds of lunch and learns, but also to get to know one another. It's been especially important as we're coming out of the pandemic and as there is a transfer in who the partners are in firms, who are the young emerging leaders in firms, to get to know one another so that they can cross-refer business. And when we have a client who needs an attorney, they have had a chance to be in more deep relationship with local attorneys and might be able to better advise their clients. Or their client is looking for a new accounting office or accountant. That is part of why we convene you all together, is to assist you in networking with one another in those professional settings, but also to get to know how the Community Foundation can become an ally. And so we do lunch and learns as well with CLEs. We often will also do social events. We do one in the winter and one in the summer. And those are really intended to network. So if you are not engaged yet with your local community foundation in getting our professional advisor newsletter or e-news, or coming alongside us to do those lunch and learns, in a few minutes at the end of our webinar, our contact information for every executive director will go up onto the screen. And you could feel completely free to give us a call or an email anytime, and we'll get you subscribed to those things and make sure that you get an invitation. It is really, they're really fun opportunities to be together. So there was a question that was just chatted to me, and that is there a cost to set up a fund, like a setup fee? And the answer to that is no. We do not charge your clients to set up a fee or to set up a fund, but there is a fee that gets attached to each fund once it is set up. And those fees are operated within a certain prescribed set of policies that we have here at the foundation. And those fees are assessed directly to the fund. So the donor does not walk in with a check for $250 and say, here's my fund setup fee. We don't operate like that. We make it as seamless as possible. And that is part of why we actually conduct campaigns for philanthropy or foundation builder, your foundation, your community campaigns in each of our geographies, is to support the operational work of your community foundation so that we do not need to assess those setup fees. Carl, did you want to add anything to that?
I do. And I would like our professional advisors to know that while fees are one thing that your clients will consider when setting up a charitable fund, and I want to acknowledge ours are, higher than the large commercial charities. But as I said before, they don't get that personalized concierge service that they do with us, and that those one-on-one meetings whenever they want with those donors. But I'm also finding the last 3 funds we've established, all of those donors made the decision to buy local. They were local business owners here in our community. They understand the importance of buying local. One was a brewery owner, another was a lumberyard owner, and another was actually a consultant that moved up to this area, but it's his new home and he wants to support this community. So I would just encourage you not to assume your donors are going to make decisions based on a lower fee. and to make sure they know about a local option and the benefits of a local option and professional concierge service, just like you give your clients. So.
Thank you, Carl. And fees are a part of the operating structure of a community foundation. And it's important that you also remember the idea that a fee is actually a gift to support a charity. We are the charity that is being supported via that gift, via that fee. And so I often get asked from professional advisors about this concierge level service, which is a signature term we use here at Community Giving inside all of our partner foundations. And it is really true. Your client gets the service that they need, not just the service that's in our frequently asked questions online. They get the concierge level one-to-one service that they need, whether it's a phone call, it's a text, it's a Zoom meeting, we go visit them in their home, or they come to our office. They get that level of service. And if you are referring clients into some of the larger commercial gift fund vehicles that work for some clients, for sure, you have to be in the top 200 sized funds, the largest 200 funds, to have a charitable wealth advisor at your call in those, and those are billion-dollar sized funds. We have plenty of funds that are a far cry from $1 billion, but those donors are getting concierge level service from us. So it is a really important distinction that fit really does matter, but those fees here are actually being put to dollars on the street to support your community foundation, as opposed to going into a larger corporate style vehicle. I was also chatted a question here about the trends that we see in giving right now. And I'm going to let each of my colleagues talk a little bit about anything that they might be seeing, but I'll start with one of the trends that we are seeing in the Wilmer area. And that is that people are converting private trusts. So it might be second, as Carl mentioned, second or third generation on those trusts as advisors. Those advisors are more spread out geographically. They might be less tied to the initial impetus of why the fund was set up. And they're looking to simplify. They don't like some of the expenses. And in our case, we're hearing a lot about the expenses it costs to have a private trust, and that they realize that a donor advised fund vehicle might be a better fit for this time with their trust. And so the last, in fact, 3 funds that we have seen come over here at the Community Foundation have been around the closing of a trust, porting it over to a donor advised fund, and actually dissolving and closing the trust legally and ending that trust with a calendar year 2022. So bear that in mind too, if you have some of those clients, especially as some of the larger trust companies are changing the minimum balances on trusts. That's another really great spot for a community foundation to potentially be a partner. So Kai, any specific trends that you're starting to notice in your community relative to gifts coming in the door or grant making going out from established funds?
Sarah, it's interesting. We're actually working with a potential donor. Just had a meeting with her recently here. And as many of us here at the Community Foundation in philanthropy, we use the tagline, we help people plan their giving. And it's a great job. It's an opportunity for us to really engage with people. And while donor advised funds are great for the people who know what they're passionate about, what their heart really tugs them in that direction, there are a number of people that have that connection into their community, into their town. This lady that we were talking to, she's a retired teacher, has lived in the community for 37 years. And has opportunities to donate to her church and to other organizations that she's very passionate about, and continues to give. She works with her advisor to do that on an annual basis, and it's great. She recently came across the community fund that was set up specifically for her town. And it was actually a flyer, just little insert that was in the local paper. She came across it and gave us a call and wanted to know more about it. And as a community fund set up specifically for our town, there wasn't one specific cause that it is set up to address. It's really set up to address needs that are urgent in the moment, as well as larger scale, larger project future trends that are pointing to issues that could become and will become issues if not addressed. So she was really interested in the fact that she can continue to do what she's currently doing and donate to her passionate organizations and provide a way in terms of the unrestricted funds to a community fund where she can be part of addressing other solutions that she didn't even know about. And so we're starting to see more and more residents, more and more community members really tie into that whole cause of, hey, I'm already doing something, but what are the things that I don't know about that I could also help with? And so that continues to be a strong point.
Thank you, Kai. I'm going to invite Greta into the conversation right now to talk a little bit about kind of the unique ways that they are working to educate donors about emerging needs. I'm thinking about the bus tours, Greta, and a few other things, but also some trends that you might be seeing in giving that are coming out of the Central Minnesota Community Foundation.
Sure. One way we've connected some of our donors is literally getting on a bus, partnering with United Way in St. Cloud here, and going out to tour 3 or 4 organizations around a specific topic. So maybe it's mental health. That was the last one we did. We engage our donors, we get them on the bus, we meet on the bus, we have discussions on the bus, we tour these nonprofits to educate our donors and give them ideas of what they could give to in the community. One other thing I would say is a lot of times our donors, a trend is that they don't always know where they want to give their money, and they can donate their money by setting up their donor advised fund, get their tax deduction before the end of the calendar year. And then we can work with them and help them find things that meet their philanthropic goals that make a difference in the communities that they live in or outside of the communities that they live in. Maybe they have a cabin in Alexandria and they live in St. Cloud. It doesn't matter where they give as long as it meets the mission and is a 501c3. So we serve as a resource to help connect our donors. And I've also seen some trends now with some funds that have been set up a while ago and the donors passed away, and the donors had predetermined part of where their designated part of where their funds go to at that time, and then added their children on as advisors. And maybe their children don't know now where they want to donate to. So we're reaching out to those families and trying to connect them in our community with take the resources they have and build community with that.
Thank you, Greta. It's important to note here too that if a donor is setting up, our client is setting up a donor advised fund, they don't need to know when they set that fund up. They have time to figure that out. They get the tax deduction at the time that the gift is made, and then they have some time to figure that out. Now, certainly there are best practices about the kinds of gifts and the amount of giving we want to see those funds do in a year, but there is actually not a required minimum grant that needs to go out of their donor advised fund. So if they're waiting to think about what they want to do, they maybe have their eye on a bigger project that's going to take a little bit of time to coalesce, that is completely fine. The Community Foundation staff will assist them in ensuring they know about these opportunities, but they are in the driver's seat on recommending grant distributions from their fund in the times in which they wish. However, if a fund sits dormant for a period of time and we haven't had a conversation with that donor, then the Community Foundation staff will usually reach out and try and engage that donor to see if there's a better way that we can assist them, because we do want those charitable dollars to go on the street. You know, everyone says that the commercial gift funds and the larger funds are expected to do a 10% minimum distribution each year. And when we do our math at the community foundations as a whole, we tend to operate a lot closer to the 20 to 30% distribution out of our donor advised funds each year, because these are donors who fit the community foundation's goal of getting those dollars onto the street. So AJ, what trends are you seeing over in Alexandria?
I'm happy with what you just mentioned about donor advised funds. I don't know if I'd call it a trend, but being newer as an executive director, my goal is just when I started is just to get the word more out about the foundation, that people know it's here. So the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of inquiries on people wanting to set up a donor advised fund and how it works. So that's just been really exciting to see. So maybe not a trend, but just really what I've been busy with. So it just kind of shows that we are getting the word out, that people here in the Alexandria community know that we are here to help them and their donors.
Great, thank you. And lastly, I'm going to invite Carl to share a little bit about a unique version of a donor advised fund that we can host here at the Community Foundation to help our corporate or business partners. Carl?
You bet. So a corporate advised fund can be set up for businesses as well. And we have, as we all know in our communities, all of us, we have very generous businesses that support lots of causes in our community. And they get asked a lot of times to, provide some support, sponsorships, or, whatever. But one good option for a business is if they've had an especially good year as we get to the end of the year here, they could set up a corporate advised fund, take the tax deduction for that very good year when they might be experiencing a higher tax rate, and then do that charitable giving from that fund in the years to come when things might not be as good, but they can continue to support charities in their community that way. A couple of the great advantages of that is, one, taking that tax deduction in the year they want to take it. Secondly, they don't have to every other gift that they give out, they can just recommend to us the charity they want to support, and we will write the check as long as it's over $250, and we will account for it, and they don't need a IRS letter on that particular gift because they've taken that one large deduction. And so they might make 20, 30 gifts off of that corporate advised fund, and they have no additional accounting to do for that. And then anytime they want a printout of all the gifts they get, they just let us know, and we can print those all out for them and get it to them. If they want to even enter into a greater relationship with us, we can actually do some screening of requests that they get. So we can talk to them about, what fee level that might need to happen at, but we can do some of the preliminary screening and then bring to them the ones that we think fit the criteria that they want to support, and it reduces their decision-making time on the projects as well. So feel free to add anything, Sarah, I missed on that.
Absolutely. I was just thinking of an example where this happens on any grant making from any fund, but this happened to come out of one of our corporate advised funds. And that corporation had a question about, was this a legitimate 501c3 organization that was soliciting them? What did we know about them? And so we went ahead and did what Carl mentioned. We vetted them. We did a little due diligence using resources that we have available to us here at the Community Foundation about qualified charities across the country. And we're able to give them some answers back. And also that same that same fund holder had a question about wanting to do a distribution to something that wasn't actually charitable in the eyes of the IRS. It was a charity that had let their 501c3 status lapse and wasn't even aware of it themselves. So when we did the due diligence at the time that that particular fund holder was interested in recommending a grant, we had to advise that fund holder to hold, if they would just hold off and let us make a contact with that charity and advise them and see what was happening with that charity. And so we did that, and the charity wasn't aware their 501c3 had lapsed. They got to work immediately. And in the meantime, we held that grant for them. Talked with the donor the whole time, and the donor was ready. When we were notified that the paperwork was ready and we could verify it, we were able to go back to that donor and say, now this charity is ready for the grant that you had intended for them. Would you still like to proceed? And that cost no one anything. It's just included in the fund fee that those fund holders put forward. So we do that kind of technical support between the donor and the charities all the time. It is just part of what we do to make sure that every gift going out of every fund has a charitable intention or charitable purpose. So just know that as well. And I think I can speak for all of my colleagues to say that even if you have a client who is not a current donor fund holder of their community foundation and they have a question, you should just tell them to call us. We are pretty open-hearted and open-minded folks, and we want to see good happen in our communities. So we'd be happy to vet out whatever it is that your client is looking for so that they can make that same informed choice that you're trying to help them make about using a charitable partner or a charitable intermediary for the good work that they want to see happen in a community. So we do have one more question, and this is an interesting question, and it's, do we have any experience with clients or donors who have left the foundation, and if so, why? And so I will start that question and then open it up for any of my colleagues to assist. It happens rarely, and often when it does happen, it's tied to a special kind of fund that Carl mentioned earlier, an agency fund. And an agency fund is where we partner with other 501c3 organizations in a community to hold their reserve assets. It might be excess operating from a particularly good year. They had excess dollars in a capital campaign, for example, and they are putting them, they're hiring us to do some investment for them of those assets in an agency fund. And periodically, those agencies either need all of the assets back and they have to empty and close their fund. Other times, they have developed more acumen within their board and or a partnership in the community, and they have another source that they want to actually manage and hold their assets for them. For us, we always say it's about fit. It's about timing and fit. And if the time is right and the fit of the services of the community foundation are well aligned with that particular donor or fund holder, then it's a great partnership. And sometimes the needs evolve over time. And we are not the right partner. The timing or the fit no longer is well aligned, in which case we will work with those donors, not donors who have received a durable, complete gift, fund receipt or a tax receipt from us. Donor advised fund holders, designated fund holders, they're not getting assets back to them. But in the case of an agency fund, we will work with them because we hold them, their assets as both a simultaneous asset and a liability under FASB 136. So we owe those assets directly back to them, including all revenue less the fees. So occasionally we will release those assets back to an agency fund who for fit and timing is no longer well aligned. But for the most part, no, we do not see a lot of migration away from funds at the community foundation as a whole. We don't tend to see that. In fact, we often see the opposite, where a donor has started with another charitable intermediary and they elect to come over to the community foundation over time. Carl, is there something you wanted to add?
I'll just say we've only had one donor advised fund that was relatively small, like quite small, and they just wanted to zero it out and give it to their church. And that's the only fund that we've had close that I can think of in the 7 years I've been doing the work up here. And I just want to add, you will be in great hands no matter which of these people on the screen you choose to work with in your community. They're just a talented group of professionals, and it's been an honor to work with them, and including Steve. So you're in great hands if you work with any of these folks, and you will be with my successor as well.
Thank you, Carl. That's very kind. It's been our honest privilege to have you as part of our team. We've appreciated it as well. Well, I think that wraps up everything that's been privately chatted to me, but also everything that was in the question and answer tab. We knew that we might have an opportunity to conclude our webinar a little early. So I'm going to invite our president and CEO, Steve Jewell, back to the screen to do some wrap up with you. And on the screen, you're going to notice a few things. So thank you all for joining us today. Steve?
Well, thank you, Sarah and Carl, Greta, AJ, Kai. We have just a phenomenal team of committed professionals. They care deeply about their local communities and the larger community of community foundations. And they're here all the time to provide support and assist you in any way. And in particular, I also want to note Carl, his 7 years of service has taken the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation from, I don't remember the exact number, Carl, but it's been tremendous growth that the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation has had to where they're at today. And it's thanks to Carl, and Carl being accessible and out in the community has just done a phenomenal job. So Carl, we're going to miss you, but we know you're going to stay connected. So really appreciate all that you've done to support your local community and support all of us in the quest for helping people, generous people, change lives and community. That was one of Carl's phrases that he gave us, and we continue to use it. So Carl, thank you. And to each of the executive directors, feel free to reach out to them. And we want to thank you, the professional advisors, because you who are out there in the community working with clients, we just want to be there to support you and help you in your practice. Continue to do the great work you do, because we know you care about your local community as well. And we're just a resource to help you and support you in that effort. So thank you for tuning in or watching this recording. There are resources and additional information on the web. We have a whole area and focus around planned giving on our website called plannedgiving.communitygiving.org. Also, additional resources, past webinars recorded for you to take a look at, all available on the web and the websites you see listed here. And we do welcome your feedback and comments. We don't have our next webinar scheduled yet, but if you have a topic or an area you think would be of interest, we do plan to do them, but not as many as we did during COVID. We're very excited to be back in person, sponsoring events, as you heard, in the various communities. They're reaching out and doing gatherings and bringing people together. We like to see that, but we also occasionally will be doing a few webinars, and really based on what you want to hear about. So send us some information and things you'd like to see from us at info@communitygiving.org, as well as any feedback, comments, or questions you might have. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and the way that you help generous people give back to your local community. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.